So let's talk BYU quarterbacks now going forward. Some of you might recall we had Jeff Hansen on the podcast not that long ago, and I posited the question to him at that time about if, and the question was if at that point, BYU were to land Ryder Lyons, would it shut up the critics of Aaron Roderick? And both he and I agreed that yes, it should. And well, lo and behold, Ryder Lyons is a BYU Cougar. So is that going to truly quiet Cougar fans who don't like A-Rod or think that he's overmatched or whatever you think about Aaron Roderick? I think it should quiet some of the criticism about him because he just landed an absolutely elite talent. Like, truthfully, one of the more elite talents we have seen in recent memory for BYU on the recruiting front. I talked about it on this podcast. I've talked about it previously, but Ryder Lyons is a 99 in the composite ratings on 24/7 Sports. And if you look at the composite ratings for a guy like AJ DeBonsa on the basketball side of things, he's 100. They're in the same ilk in terms of their overall ratings. And the thought is they're both premier prospects who are capable of elevating the program or programs that they play for, speaking of BYU basketball and BYU football, respectively. That is awesome to have. And yes, it should quiet some of the criticism of Aaron Roderick because he's now checked that box off that some people have said that he can't recruit and land an elite talent at quarterback because he just did. Ryder Lyons is just that. The best news is, I think, beyond that, for a guy like Aaron Roderick, is he has stocked his quarterback room. He has brought in recently Bear Bachmeier, who's a 4-star prospect in his own right and figures to be in the mix as soon as maybe training camp or maybe a little bit into the season and at the very latest by next spring. You already have McKay Hillstead and Trayson Bourget who have got Division I starts under their belt who are transfers into this program. I've had people tell me that they believe that a guy like Emerson Geilman, who will kind of be the freshman who's holding the clipboard, to use that expression, this fall for BYU football, they think in time he could emerge as a really, really fine quarterback for BYU. They say to me all the time, all he did was prove himself time and time again at Bountiful Jake, and for whatever reason got overlooked in the recruiting process, but they're very high on his potential. BYU brings home Enoch Watson off of a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints upcoming this offseason. And he obviously is expected to be in the fray. And I've had people describe to me that he is what they call a dog. And he is going to be unafraid of anybody competing with him for playing time when it comes to quarterback at BYU. You mix in Keneal Sweetwine, who, let's put it this way, Keneal Sweetwine might emerge as the best quarterback in the state of Utah this year in the high school ranks at Skyridge High School. He is an incredible athlete. And he's really coming into his own, from what I understand, at the quarterback position. And that's why BYU offered him as a quarterback. They didn't offer him as an athlete. They offered him as a quarterback, and they expect him to be in the mix as soon as next year, as he is anticipated to enroll right away as part of the 2026 recruiting cycle. Ryder Lyons does not, I think, have a guarantee, nor should he have a guarantee that when he returns in 2027, that the job is his at BYU. Kalani Sitake has been very clear that playing time at BYU is a privilege, and you earn that by proving yourself on the field in practice and earning the right to be the guy in Provo, Utah. Ryder Lyons, on paper, probably has the best skill set, the best talent, the most elite in terms of the prowess of any of the quarterbacks I've already listed on today's show. But when he returns from that mission, he is going to have to go out there and beat out a number of other guys who are not going to want to cede a single inch to him when it comes to playing time. They're all hoping to live their dream as a BYU quarterback, or else they wouldn't have committed to the BYU football program. They see what the quarterback position means in BYU football history. They know the history. They know what Cougar fans expect of this. But when things are going good for BYU, quarterback play is usually why they are standing out. And that's why I think young men are so willing to be a part of this right now for the BYU football program. And yes, Aaron Roderick, his quarterback room on paper right now should be stacked and should have him feeling quite comfortable going into the next decade, because if you kind of time it all out here, you're going to have guys overlapping, but every one of them, if they pan out and they become the guy for BYU, well, that means there's 2 and 3 years potentially when they're starting as the quarterback, and should take you through at least 2030. I'm not going to say that BYU is not going to recruit a guy in 27, 28, 29, and 30, because history suggests that 1 or 2 or 3 of these guys will get fed up with the lack of playing time and transfer out of the program. And what you have to do is you have to backfill, whether it's via the high school ranks, whether that's via transfer portal, junior college, whatever it might be. Aaron Roderick has proven that he can bring in talent to BYU and he can develop it. And those of you who want me to reiterate once again, he is a big key reason why Zach Wilson, why Jaron Hall, why a Jake Retzlaff have emerged as the type of talents that they are, because they're under the tutelage of a guy like Aaron Roderick. I get accused often of being an Aaron Roderick homer, and I will own that. I think Aaron Roderick is severely underrated in what he means to the BYU football program. But history tells us that the offensive coordinator at BYU, you sign up to be a punching bag. You don't have to look back very far in their history. Norm Chow, it felt like for 2 decades, was that punching bag. Aaron Roderick played for Norm Chow. He has talked with Norm Chow often, I'm sure, and I think they can commiserate over the fact, when we're the play caller in Provo on the offense, you get beat up a lot in terms of social media and the reaction from the fans. But that's just part of it. Because I will say this about Cougar fans. Y'all know elite football when you see it. And you've been treated to some elite football for the better part of a half a century. You go back, quarterback play has been synonymous with elite BYU football for better part of 50 plus years. You can go back all the way to Virgil Carter in the 1960s, but it really got going with Gary Scheide. It rolls through Mark Wilson, the Gifford Nilssons, the Jim McMahon, Steve Young, Robbie Bosco, Ty Detmer. Man, you can roll through John Beck, Max Hall, Taysom Hill, Zach Wilson, Jaron Hall. There have been elite quarterbacks, and the pantheon is stuffed full of guys that BYU fans would consider among, if not their favorites, in terms of who they watched and who they really thought was the best quarterback in program history. Well, guess what? It sure looks like the future for BYU at the position is set, and Ryder Lyons is right there near the top, and for good reason, because he is absolutely elite on paper. There is just no doubt about that. I know that some of you have said, well, what about Ben Olsen? And what about us buying into Jake Heaps? Hey, it didn't pan out for those guys, and I can readily admit that. But I think that in this day and age, with how much planning, how many camps, how many showcase events, the different things that guys go through to get the ratings they get from these recruiting surfaces, I think they're better served now in terms of them being an elite prospect now than they were in the era of Ben Olsen, or even when Jake Heaps came out in 2010. Olsen was in 03, if I recall correctly. They have got, I think, a more clear view of what a guy like Ryder Lyons is. And BYU saw that talent very early on. You heard him say it on Pat McAfee. BYU was his first offer in 8th grade. So BYU's been in it from the very get-go with this kid, and what begins well ends well, apparently, for BYU. And the hope is that will continue on into when he finally suits up for the Cougars, that in a time he can emerge atop the heap of some really, really talented quarterbacks. And whoever it might be, the hope is that BYU does a lot of winning along the way and finally finds themselves atop the Big 12 Conference, playing in the college football playoff, and heck, maybe even challenging for national supremacy and a national championship to pair with the one they have from 1984. That's the dream. So the quarterback position, I think, is well stocked, and I do think we can tone down a little bit of the rhetoric when it comes to Aaron Roderick, because I think he continues to answer his as to what he truly can accomplish as BYU's offensive coordinator.